Welcome to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. But before we head over to the arena, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors of the show, Group Therapy Bike Tours and Slim Chickens. We'll start with Group Therapy. They are all in on the Nebraska basketball wave. Head over to grouptherapybiketours.com and book your ride today for all of your pregame, post-game, whenever game, birthday party, wedding, family reunion, corporate event. They have a 15-person trolley ride, a 6-person mini bike for whatever event you want to celebrate. And like I said, it is full force in Nebraska. If you've gone to a Nebraska game, I'm sure you've seen the trolleys riding around the Haymarket and downtown Lincoln. If you go over to grouptherapybiketours.com and use the promo code NebraskaBall, you will save 15% on your first ride. So make sure you head on over there and support our great sponsor. It's a ton of fun. I've been on it several times. Could not recommend it enough. Now over to our other sponsors, Slim Chickens. Bill Hooks and his wife Stacy are diehard Nebraska fans, and they couldn't wait to jump on the Nebraska basketball train. Locally owned Slim Chickens has 2 locations, 84th and Old Cheney and 16th and Pine Lake. Slim Chickens features a variety of options with fried and grilled chicken tenders, wings, salads, wraps, sandwiches, chicken and waffles, and southern sides. What makes Slim's different? Well, they have over 17 different dipping sauces for guests to choose their favorite. Slim Chickens is available for dine-in, drive-thru, or delivery via their online ordering. Check out Slim Chickens app and start earning rewards today. Slim Chickens is always a favorite for large gatherings and tailgate parties, especially Nebraska basketball tailgate parties, and let them do the cooking for you. Slim Chickens is moving forward, and they are expanding to the north side of Lincoln soon, so keep an eye out for that. Stop into your local Slim Chickens restaurant today for some southern hospitality and see their newly remodeled locations. Again, thanks to all our sponsors. Now let's head over to the arena and take you courtside with me, Rob and Washut. Welcome back to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. Wrapping up here at the Chrysler Center in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Nebraska falls for the first time in 24 games, 75-73 to number 3 Michigan. It was a strange game from even before Nebraska boarded the plane to fly out here because of the uncertainty surrounding Braden Frager. He obviously didn't travel because of his ankle injury and was out for the game. So they knew that going in, but just the kind of unknown of his game time decision, that sort of thing, made it interesting at least. Well, then they show up to Ann Arbor and have a team meal at the Chop House, which I've been to. I went with Sean Callahan, and we had a really good dinner there and ended up, like, not to name drop, but hung out with Will Compton and Taylor Lewan, who were there for the Nebraska-Michigan game several years ago, and really nice place. I don't know if it was that caused it, but Rink Mast came down with a nasty stomach bug, one that kept him up all night, throwing up pretty much every hour. So he got 0 sleep, couldn't keep anything down, didn't come with the Huskers to the Chrysler Center for their early shoot around, and was late getting on the court for pregame warmups. He did suit up. He came out here and went through a pretty decent stretch of warmups, and the thought was that he was going to give it a shot, that he was going to play. That quickly changed, as Fred Hoiberg said, with about 12 minutes before tip. Rink told him that I can't go. Like, he couldn't even hold down water. His stomach was so upset, and he was so weak and just felt awful. He basically said, I can't play. And so that left Nebraska without the centerpiece of its roster, the guy that they built this entire team around, who does so many things. Despite his recent shooting slump, he is the most valuable, the most important piece to this team because of the way it was constructed around him. And they were also without Braden Frager, their most athletic player, their best dribble drive player, their best above the rim player, and one of their better 3-point shooters against a Michigan team that is as deep, athletic, physical as any team, not only in the Big Ten, but as any team in the conference. And then they had to go on the road for their 3rd straight 2-day prep to try to keep this thing rolling with an undefeated season. Needless to say, the deck was stacked against them from the jump, which made their performance tonight so impressive. Yes, they lost, and yes, they kind of fluttered down the stretch, missed what 13 or what one of 13 3-pointers in the second half. Went on by the end of the game on a nearly 3-minute scoring drought. Committed a bunch of fouls down the stretch that let Michigan chip away at the lead at the free throw line, and just kind of had a game in their grasp that they couldn't hold on to, in crunch time, which has kind of been a defining trait of this group to this point. But when you consider the circumstances that they were up against, even before the ball was tipped off, the fact that they're in this arena where I think they've only won once since they've joined the Big Ten Conference against this team that many are considering a front runner for the national championship, not just the Final Four, but to win it all. This was a game that, the spread was 10 and a half, 11. I saw in some places got up to 12. That was for a reason. Nebraska wasn't supposed to win this game. They were barely even supposed to keep it close because of their roster situation, but also I think people thought that Michigan was just that good and that much better than Nebraska, even with their full complement available. Well, Nebraska, I think, even in defeat, changed the narrative in a significant way, where I think national people wanted to see, all right, well, the goalposts continue to move every single game. And this was, I don't know if it could move any further than what they faced today. And Nebraska had every opportunity to win it. They looked just as competitive as Michigan did in a game where all the advantages were on Michigan's side. To me, that embodies everything that this group is about: the heart, the resilience, the fight, and the character to look adversity dead in the eyes, no matter what they're up against, and just keep on swinging. Whoever's out there, whether it's Cale Jacobson playing 27 minutes and having arguably the best game of his career. Like, he had 8 points. It's a modest stat line, but he started the game. He won the opening tip against 7'3" Adimara. He did some plays where he's like putting guys in a blender with these like post moves and scoring in the lane in a game where Nebraska needed every point it could get and every source of offense it could get. Cale was absolutely critical, and he had 4 steals, oftentimes being matched up against Mara or Morez Johnson, guys that are a foot taller than him in some cases. That performance, I think, deserves all the flowers you can give it. And then other guys, Leo Curtis. He came into this game playing just over 11 minutes in Big Ten play all season long. He played 13 tonight and scored 6 points, matched his season high, or career high, and just gave them something. This was a game where they needed something from everybody. And the disappointing thing was Jared Garcia played 10 minutes and had an empty stat line. He had a turnover and a foul. No shot attempts, no rebounds, no assists, no blocks, no steals. Just a turnover and a foul over 10 minutes. And so absolutely empty minutes from a guy that has been talked about as being kind of that next man up, the most critical next guy up, with all of this, roster attrition that's happening right now. Well, they didn't get anything from him, but they got everything from Cale Jacobson. They got Leo Curtis's best performance of his young career, and I think maybe you look at him differently now, regardless of when Rink comes back. I think he'll be fine in a couple days. But either way, now they have a guy in Leo that I think that they trust a little bit more. Like, if he can go out and score 6 points on 3-4 shooting or whatever he was in this atmosphere against that Michigan front court, what's to say that he can't hold his own against anybody else they play the rest of the year? So that adds a nice, or a little bit more comfort to the depth that Nebraska needs, all the depth they can get. So some encouraging things that way. I also liked the response from the players after the game. We only talked to Sam Hoiberg and Price Sanford for a few minutes after the game, and they were clearly dejected. Price was especially upset, and I think if anything, he was more upset with himself. He felt he did not shoot the ball well down the stretch. He had some open looks that he thought that he should have made, and if a couple of those go in, it's probably a different ball game down the stretch. But I thought the most positive thing to come out of their post game was that they refused to look at this game as a moral victory. I know that's an easy thing to do, and the way that I'm talking about it sure makes it sound like we're trying to paint it as a moral victory. Like, that's internally in this locker room, they don't view it that way. They view it as a game that they should have won, despite all that they were up against. And had they made a few more plays, they would have done it. So if anything, this game fuels them a little bit more to say that, we didn't play great down the stretch. We had the opportunity to win this and we let it slip through our fingers, despite not having Rink or Braden or Connor Season. And we went toe to toe for a full 40 minutes with one of the best teams in the game right now at their house. That to me, I think, in a loss, like if you were ever to quantify a loss as a good thing, I'm not going to say that for this one because no losses are ever good. But in terms of like tangible positives you can take away from a loss, this one, I think, has as much as you could possibly imagine, just because of all the variables that went into this one before the game, during the game, and now coming out of it, and how well Nebraska rallied around each other and fought together in a game where they needed everybody to bring it. They got that and more. Sanford, Hoiberg, and Sanford, Hoiberg, and Berke all played career high minutes tonight. Jamarcus Lawrence was 1 minute shy from his season high. So that starting group played about as much of or shouldered about as much of the workload as you could expect. And again, I think that had to do with some of the fatigue down the stretch. But man, the way that they carried the load for the majority of that game, and every time Michigan tried to make a run and to make it a one possession game, that group had an answer. It was Jamarcus coming up with a big three, or Sam stepping up and making a play, or Kale making a tough turnaround jump shot, or Berke securing a rebound, or whatever it was. Like, this is one of those games that, it's certainly disappointing, frustrating, and all that, the undefeated season comes to an end, that they lost for the first time in nearly a calendar year. But I do think that the positives will fuel this group as they continue to get healthier. I think Braden Frager has a very good chance to come back against Illinois. I think Rink Mass has a very good chance to come back against Illinois. So as well as Nebraska has handled success throughout the course of this season, it's been a long time since they've felt the sting of defeat. I think that they're going to handle losing just as well as they did winning, where the whole motto of never get too high, never get too low, that is going to apply tenfold after this one, because they can't sit around and feel sorry for themselves, and I don't think they will. They know that Sunday presents just as massive of an opportunity for them against another top 10 team at home on a whiteout. There's going to be a whole bunch of recruits in the building. Like, this is going to be a massive spotlight once again for them. And the fact that they did what they did on that floor back there, despite all of the circumstances working against them, that, I think, is going to be a powerful motivator for this team to not only just bounce back, but to take another step forward to becoming a legitimate Big Ten contender and a legitimate contender to make a deep run. Not just win a game in March, but potentially make a run in the NCAA tournament. Signing off for now. Thanks again to our sponsors, Group Therapy Bike Tours, Slim Chickens. We'll be back with another pregame show before Illinois on Sunday, postgame show to talk about what happened. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.